Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be going over 10 tips that I have for decluttering your home. I've been getting some questions about some tips that I would have to help you guys declutter your space. First, I should say I apologize if you hear anything outside. There's street sweeping going on down my street. Why there's street sweeping right before it snows, I don't know. But whatever. And I also have Dawson here. You guys can probably hear him as well because he has refused his nap. So that's what we're working with today as I film this video. This is my only time that I have to film it. I also was just filming a BOOKTUBE video. I have a second channel where I talk specifically all about books. And I was just filming a video over there and like the same thing was going on. So I apologize, but anyways, I digress. Let's get into the video. I have 10 tips for you that are gonna hopefully help you to declutter your space a little bit easier and make it feel not quite so overwhelming to you. So the first tip that I have is to keep flat surfaces clean. This is something that I struggle with as well, but I'm a little bit better about it in my kitchen. So what I mean by that is to keep like flat surfaces free of clutter. So like in my kitchen, I try not to keep things on my countertops unless they are things that I use every day. Since I've had Dawson, it's a little bit more difficult because I have lots of stuff on my counters that he has every day, like his bottles, his formula, and like his little drying rack for his bottles and stuff like that. Like that all stays out, but normally, obviously if I didn't have a baby, that wouldn't be out there. But things like, you know, your coffee machine or your toaster or, you know, appliances like that. If you have the room to store them underneath in your cabinets, go ahead and do that, because the cleaner that you have your surface, the more that once you put something down on that surface, it's going to alert you when you walk past, hey, something is out of the normal here. I need to put that item away. Whereas if your counters or your tabletop or your dressers or coffee tables, whatever, is typically piled up with a bunch of stuff, then as you're adding stuff to it, it doesn't really jump out in your mind when you walk past that place that something's amiss here, because you're used to seeing it always cluttered, if that makes sense. So by keeping it nice and clean, then it's going to alert you faster and you're going to realize something is out of place here. I need to take care of it. Tip number 2, and this is probably my favorite tip, probably my most important one, is to do multiple sweeps of the same room weeks or even months apart. I am a huge proponent of taking your time when you're trying to declutter. Like I have hi babbies. I have him blocked off by his baby gate so that he can't like come and attack the tripod, and he's just like looking at me through the gate. Anyways, I have a smaller home, but I have a lot of stuff, and I've been trying in the last few months to slowly get rid of things. But what I find is that sometimes when I go through a room, you kind of get decision fatigue. And so sometimes, especially towards the end of the day when I'm decluttering a certain room, I will just start to keep things because I'm like, I don't know, I'm just gonna keep it. And you get a little bit overwhelmed. So, or things may seem more important to you than they really are. So if you just kind of go through, do a sweep, and then come back to it in a couple of weeks later, like give yourself enough time to kind of forget about everything, and then come back to those same items. A lot of the times you start to realize that the items actually don't hold as much importance as you thought that they did. Or you just realize, I don't even like this anymore, I don't want this anymore. It's just, you were making so many decisions earlier that now when you come back to it, it's a lot easier to let those items go. So I say, go through the same room over and over and over again until you are at a space where you like how the room looks or you have enough room or whatever. But I personally feel that like decluttering never really stops because you're always going to be outgrowing things, right? So whether it's decor items that you no longer like or need or want or whatever, or clothes that don't fit anymore or out of style, like there's always going to be decluttering somewhere in your life. So number 3 is to not keep items, especially like this is more for the kitchen, I would say, than any other room. But I mean, I guess it could work for other rooms too, but mostly in the kitchen. Don't keep items that only have one use. So things like, my mom tried to give me a rotisserie of hers the other day. And at first I was like, oh yeah, I'll take that. And then I was like, what? Why do I need a rotisserie for? Like, I can just make the same thing in the oven. Like, yes, it's a little bit different, but I don't need that. It's a huge like rotisserie, and I'm like, I don't have a room for that. I can just make a ham in the oven. I don't need it on a rotisserie. I don't need to do a chicken on the rotisserie. I can just make it in the oven. It'll be fine. It'll still turn out. So things like that. The only thing that I keep that I swear by is my rice maker. If you're not making rice in a rice maker, you need to get yourself a rice maker. But other than that, that is the only thing. My friend years ago, she had bought those little as seen on TV things. They were called eggies, and they were for making hard-boiled eggs, and they're supposed to be like easier cleanup or whatever, because you don't have to shell the egg. Basically, you crack the egg into this little eggy thing, and it makes a hard-boiled egg out of this contraption. But I was like, I don't get it. Like, just peel the egg. Like, because now you have to clean all these little individual cups, and it's taking space in your house, in your kitchen, having this little thing that is only good for boiling eggs. You can't do anything else with it other than boil eggs. So stuff like that, things that are only good for one use, no. If you can make it another way, if you can boil eggs like a regular person, get rid of the eggies. So tip number 4 is to have a designated clutter spot. And what I mean by that is for items that you're bringing into the home that maybe you're not using yet, that don't really have a home yet, a place for those sort of things. Like, for example, you buy a home decor item for Christmas, and you're not decorating for Christmas yet for another 2 weeks. Well, instead of heading out to your garage and putting it with all your Christmas stuff, which you know you're not going to do, you're probably just going to leave it sitting on your kitchen table for the next 2 weeks. So instead of doing that, having a designated clutter spot that you go through once a month and get rid of, like find homes for this stuff, it helps you to not like keep it out where everybody can see it. And as long as you are making sure that you actually are able to deal with those items, because you can't just like have a designated clutter spot and then never actually clear away the clutter, because then that just becomes a hoarding situation. Tip number 5 is to work in small areas. So if you are a person that gets overwhelmed easily, if you are a person that looks at your house and thinks like, my whole house needs to be decluttered, I don't know where to start, and I am getting anxiety just looking at this, you need to start small. So start with one cabinet, start with one drawer, start with, you know, like one bookshelf or whatever you can personally handle. Just tell yourself, today I'm going to, how is he getting this? You guys see that shaking? I don't know how he just reached his little hand through there and grabbed the tripod like he's magic. Anyways, yeah, just like tell yourself, today I'm only going to declutter this one drawer, and that is it. I'm going to take everything out of it, I'm going to touch every item, and then I'm going to put the stuff back that I want to keep. One drawer, that's it. It makes it seem like a smaller mountain to climb, and once you're done that one area, then chances are you probably will, it'll kind of snowball, and you'll be like, okay, I did this one drawer, I can probably do another drawer, and it will snowball from there. And even if it doesn't snowball from there, even if every day you only do one drawer, that's okay. It eventually will get done. Tip number 6 is to make sure everything that you own has a home. So I'm horrible for this with like clothes. Sometimes when I do laundry, I will just hate going to put the laundry away, because I know like my shirt drawer is already stuffed and I can't fit another shirt in there. Something like that, you know what I mean? And so then you're like, well, I can't fit another shirt in there. Where's this shirt supposed to go? So then it just sits in your laundry basket until you have a room in there. So making sure that everything has a home, or like if it's, you know, an item that you brought home from the store, you're not sure where it's gonna go yet, well, it'll just sit there until it has a home. So you want every item in your home to be something that you look at and know exactly where this is supposed to go. Because if you don't, and you think like, oh, where should I put this? You're going to be less likely to keep your home tidy, because you're just going to be like, well, I don't know where that even is going to go. I'm just going to ignore it and walk away. Whereas if you know, oh, hey, that item goes just right over there, it's a lot easier to just pick it up and take it over to its home. So Number 7 is the Kon Mari Method. Now, I do use the Kon Mari Method, but I do not subscribe to all of her principles. Clearly, look at all my books behind me. She thinks you should only have like 10 books or 30 books or something like that. Like, no. Nope. Clearly, I don't subscribe to that line of thinking. But I do agree with how she says that you should physically touch every single item. Lots of times, like if you're looking at a box and it's a bunch of little things, you'll either just be like, oh, I'm just going to keep the whole thing, or I'm just going to throw the whole thing out, and then you end up throwing out something that you actually need. Because things can hide, you know, especially if you have a box of little stuff. Things can hide, and all of a sudden you're looking for something that you accidentally threw out. So you want to make sure that you're actually physically touching every single item and really looking at it and thinking, when was the last time I used this? Will I use it again? How often am I going to use it? And is this something that I could potentially just buy again? And to kind of piggyback off of what I was just saying, number 8 is to allow yourself permission to rebuy items. A lot of the times I find people don't want to get rid of things because they think they might need it again or they might use it again. So when you're using that line of thinking, you really need to think, well, what are the chances that I'm gonna need to use this again? How expensive is the item to replace? Or how easy is it for me to borrow it from someone else if I end up needing it? Because a lot of times I think we don't end up needing these things, or we don't end up needing them for a long time. So is it worth it to you to hold on to this one item that you might not actually need for another 5 years? And then when you need it in 5 years, you only need it the one time, and you'll be like, yeah, I'm glad I had this. But throughout this whole time, you've just been holding on to this. It's been taking up space. And I mean, clutter in general, just, it starts to affect your mind, right? Like it really does start to play an effect on your mental health if you have a cluttered enough home. So is this thing taking up space for the next 5 years worth it to you to have that one day that you need it? Or could you really just borrow it from someone else or run down to the store and grab another one if you really need it? Give yourself permission to let go of things that you can replace if you absolutely have to. Obviously, if it's something like really expensive, then maybe think about keeping it, but chances are you probably could borrow it from someone else. Okay, so tip number 9, this is for those items that you're really not sure if you should get rid of or not. You're kind of on the fence of it. You've really thought about it and you're really not sure if you should get rid of it or not. So a lot of times people will just end up keeping those things. What I suggest doing is to take all those items, put them all in a box, and put the box somewhere away out of your line of sight where you don't see it for the next couple of weeks. Then in like 2 weeks, set yourself an alarm for like 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, whatever. And when that alarm goes off, think to yourself about how many times you actually thought about those items in that box throughout those 2 weeks. If you haven't thought about them, which chances are you haven't, if you haven't needed the items, if you haven't thought about the items, chances are you don't need the items and you can just go ahead and get rid of that entire box without even looking at it. And my last decluttering tip is for your closet and clothes. So what I like to do... Fair, fair, okay. Okay. Good? Are we good? Mommy only has one more tip left. Yeah. How'd you get that? He's chewing on my headband. So tip number 10, when you are going through your clothes, my favorite thing to do is a classic tried and true thing that you've probably heard mentioned a million times, but I like to take all of the hangers, hang all of my items backwards, and then in 1 year, like set yourself a reminder from 1 year from that day, go through, and any of the items, like as you wear them, you're going to turn the hanger around so that they're hanging on the proper way. Then at the end of the year, anything you haven't worn in 1 year, it goes. I say 1 year because I'm in Canada and I have 4 seasons, so I can't do 6 months, because if I start like in the spring, it'll be fall by the time 6 months comes by, and then I'll be getting rid of all my winter stuff because I haven't worn my winter stuff in the last 6 months. So if you're in a place that has like summer weather all year round, then do 6 months. But for me, I experience all 4 seasons within the course of the year, so I need to do a year. So yeah, and then after you open your closet, anything that has not been turned around, you haven't worn in the last year, you've had ample opportunity, you've had every opportunity of an entire year to wear that item, you haven't worn it, it is time for it to go. All right, you guys, we are just perfect timing because Dawson just figured out a way around this makeshift gate that I have made him. So it's time for me to go. I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. Let me know in the comments down below if I helped give you some ideas on how to declutter your space a lot easier. And I hope you guys are having an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye. No, 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 no. He was going for the kitty water. Yeah, you were going for the kitty water. You're a troublemaker. You're a troublemaker. Yeah, you trouble.
About to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action.